Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, and thank you for coming to our session. We didn't anticipate such a large session, but we've got 4 great speakers this morning. Our session today is going to focus on, what's the title of the session? Do you remember? Principals' perspectives about beginning teachers. Very good. So it's how they perceive and what they look for in a new beginning teacher. So again, we want to see how you can thrive. Some of you probably are student teachers, pre-service teachers, and so you're going to be in the position of interviewing probably sometime soon. So you want to know how you can really be successful when you interview.
I didn't make it to the other side because, of course, you'll find out one day. I know a lot of you guys will go from being teachers to being principals. I've been at 2 other campuses already, just with our, what goes on in the life of a principal. But anyway, you're more interested in the life of a teacher. My name is Celia Avila, and I'm a principal here at Truman Elementary, here with the Edinburgh School District. Was in the classroom for 15 years, and have now been an administrator for 10. So do the math. I've been in the business for 25 years, so hopefully between the 4 of us, we're going to be able to answer your questions. Don't be nervous. We're here to serve you, to help you be better prepared. So thank you for coming. I wasn't expecting such a big crowd.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Eva Torres, and currently I'm the principal at Robert Vela High School here in Edinburgh, and with the Edinburgh School District. This is my second principalship. I was principal at Barrientos Middle School prior to this, and very uniquely so, we opened up both schools, brand new. So from the ground up, we opened up both a middle school and a high school. So I've been on the hiring end of this process for staffing 2 entire schools, Robert Vela High School, almost 280 people, hiring everything from assistant principals, counselors, teachers, to paraprofessionals, clerks, secretaries, custodians. So it's been an interesting ride, and I want today to share a lot of that with you as much as I possibly can. Prior to this life, I was a teacher. I started off coaching. Take a guess, right? Basketball, volleyball, track. I started off as a coach. I coached for about 5 or 6 years, and then I moved into the classroom. I taught English, and I understand there's a couple that have been my students in my English classes. So I taught English for quite a few years, and then became the Dean of Instruction at Edinburgh North High School, and then I followed in with the principalships at Barrientos Middle School and now at Robert Vela High School. So welcome everyone, and it's great to see all of you. I look forward to having a good session with you. Thank you.
My name is Alejo Salazar. I work at Santa Rosa. I'm the elementary principal at Santa Rosa. I was at Harlingen for 6 or 7 years. I was a principal there, an assistant principal. Before that, I taught and I coached, and before that, I was a bus driver for about 6 years. So I've been doing this. This is my 21st year in the business, if you count when I started as a paraprofessional. So I've done a lot of things. I've seen a lot of things, and hopefully we can share our perspective and give you all some insight as to what we look for when we hire somebody, and what we look for when we see that possibility of not only being a teacher on our campus, but being a successful teacher on our campus. Welcome.
My name is Eduardo Raniz. I work for Mission CISD. I am the principal at the Alternative High School. We do house from elementary to high school. We do see about 10 to 15 elementary kids a year. Yes, they do stuff that will get them over there. We do not hinder in sending them. My background is I was into engineering 20 years before I decided to come into education. Always had the passion to come into education field. This is barely my 10th year. I taught 5 years at the high school, 3 as an assistant in a middle school, and then now this is my 2nd year where I'm at. I've been involved with hiring from counselors to fine arts, every which phase of the school, especially since I'm the only administrator, and I do have somebody that helps me at my school, and she's present here, and I'm grateful she is here because she helps me out a lot. Future administrator, also awesome teacher, and it goes a long way. We do look for some characteristics. There's certain characteristics that you bring to the table. I can build you. I can build anybody. We have plenty of resources, tools, anything, as long as some of those characteristics are within you. They will be brought out, because we need to keep good teachers in the classroom. They're a dying breed. Teaching is not for everybody, and I will get down to the down and dirty in your questions, and I'll be real straightforward in my answers. So,
Thank you very much. In fact, Mr. Lanin said something that's going to lead us to our very first question, which is, what are some of the characteristics that you actually look for? He did say that he looks for characteristics, but now we want all the principals to be more specific about what are some characteristics that they look for when in a teacher. What are they looking for? So you can, all of you, just kind of share those with us. Again, we'll start with Ms. Avila.
Okay. You know what, as we were speaking, I kept thinking, the one thing, and I just recently had to hire a teacher because teachers leave in the middle of the school year. And what killed me is people would walk in, and you know, the minute somebody walks in, I always think, oh, she'd make a great kinder teacher. She's so cute. Half of you guys are way too small to be teaching in high school anyway, so we can spot you guys a mile away. And then, but the first thing that we realized is that, you know, 75% of the people that we were interviewing, they weren't prepared. They knew all the answers. They knew exactly what we wanted to hear, and we're like, great, but they didn't have their credentials. I know not everybody lives in Edinburgh, and every district will have their own little criteria, but I can tell you right now, if you're not bilingually certified in Edinburgh, I can't even recommend you. I don't care if you graduated with a 4.0 and you're the best looking teacher out there, and you have all these letters of recommendation from Dr. Menchaca and Dr. Strada and everybody else that just thinks you're going to make a wonderful teacher. You will one day when you come with your credentials, because you need it in writing also. You know, you've worked really hard, and I know some of you guys are like, I don't want to deal with just bilingual kids. Well, welcome to the Valley, guys. That's what's here. And we have to be prepared. And so that's what hurts me the most, that I see really, really, truly qualified teachers. And you say, well, the state of Texas says I'm certified. Yeah, but then you still have to deal with all the little nitpicky stuff that each individual district will throw your way. So be prepared while you're at this level. Already, you know, dot your I's and cross your T's and make sure that everything's in order. Because when you get out there and actually start interviewing, it's not for nothing, let me tell you. Every interview you go on, whether you get the job or didn't get the job, is an experience for you. You start getting your feet wet thinking, oh, that's what they expected me to know. Oh, that's what I need to know for the next one. I better find out. But, you know, be prepared. Get all your certifications and endorsements in place, because you're going to need them. I know some of you guys say, oh, I'll work on my bilingual endorsement. You know, once I graduate, you know, I'll get it going. Well, you're not going to get your foot in that door sometimes. I don't know about other districts. I'm speaking for Edinburgh. That's just a big, big obstacle for a lot of teachers. And it's a shame, because we're not even able to recommend teachers that we think would be the best teacher, because they're going to stop you at personnel. So coming from elementary, you need, if that's where you want to be, you need to get your bilingual endorsement.
Thank you.
And, well, I'd like to piggyback off of that. As Ms. Avila says, certainly the first thing we're going to look for is the certification. Now, as we go through, I know there's lots of alternative programs and other different venues and avenues which you can take in order to you know, achieve that. But a lot of times, guys, we tend to kind of center on the interview. What am I going to say at the interview? And, you know, how can I answer this question? How can I answer the other question? Let's roll back a little bit. The hiring process begins with the application, okay? And unless your application is indicative of what you're bringing to the table, you're never going to get the interview. So let's roll back, and the hiring process begins with that application. I sat with a stack of applications this high. There's lots and lots of people looking for teaching jobs. And I'm being very upfront with you. Very upfront with you. As you said, you know, we've got to tell it like it is. The application itself, one of the first things we look at is certainly, as Ms. Avila said, the certification needs to be there. The more certified you are in terms of having all of your certificates in place, you know, the greater the potential that you're going to be granted an interview. Aside from that, in looking at applications, things that I look for, almost immediately, I go to the essay portion. Almost immediately, I go to the essay portion. Perhaps that's because I used to be an English teacher. I don't know. But if you didn't take the time to write more than a couple of sentences for your essay, that tells me something already. As I scan through that essay, I'm going to read it for clarity. I'm going to read it particularly for grammatical perfectness. If you've got misspelled words, if you've got stuff like that, you know, I don't I'm very careful as to who I'm going to put in my classrooms teaching our kids. So make sure that that essay is an essay, if that's what it's asking for. Make sure that you check for your grammar, for your punctuation, for all of those things. And then, of course, for the clarity of what you're trying to say. Other things that we look for, I know I look at your email address. I don't know if anybody even thinks about that. But if I see, hotmama@aol.com, that's going to tell me something. So you may want to look at those details that you may not think about. But just in looking at the application, we look at email addresses, we look at the essays, we look at your certification, we look at your references. I sometimes have people that have their references and then it says, relationship or whatever, my childhood friend. I was like, well, how biased is that person going to be? Give us references that are very, very familiar with your work ethic, with how well you respond to kids. References that will help in terms of giving me a good indication of what you're going to do in a classroom, not how good a buddy you are to the other guy. Okay? And then I guess the last thing that I would say is be careful what you post online, because Google is a good friend of mine. Okay? And so lots of times you can Google somebody up and it's like, oh, that sure isn't the kind of, that's not the person I saw in the interview. So those types of things are important, and just to kind of put that down in perspective, before we get to an interview, you've got to get past the application selection process. So, I don't know, y'all.
Very good, that's great.
Okay, I'll take it walking into the office now.
There we go.
If you get past those two things and you happen to walk into our office, and first of all, we're going to make sure that you have the certification. Things that I look for, you have to be articulate. You have to be articulate because communication is going to be the number one thing. You have to be articulate. You have to present yourself in a manner that you're going to be able to communicate not only with your students, but also with your peers, with the parents, with administrators, and anybody and everybody who comes across that campus. On a daily basis, we deal with over 1,000 people, easily. Even in a small school like Santa Rosa. Easily on a daily basis, we deal with over 1,000 people. So can you imagine in a Harlingen, in a Mission, in a McAllen, any other of those larger school districts? So you have to be articulate because you want to present yourself well. What do I look for besides the certification? Personality. Personality is going to sell you. Because I can teach you, I can send you to a workshop to teach you to teach math, to teach writing, to teach strategies. But if you don't have the personality, it doesn't matter how much you have up here, the kids aren't going to want to have it. I worked with a coach one time who was fabulous football mind, but he couldn't communicate that to his players. So it didn't matter if he knew as much as Vince Lombardi, if he couldn't communicate that to the players, they weren't going to learn what he wanted to teach. You have to have a personality that is going to captivate your audience. If you don't captivate your audience, like I said, it doesn't matter what you know, they're not going to want to have it. They're not going to want to learn it. So I look for personality because I can teach you to teach any subject. I can get you certified in any subject. We'll send you to all the workshops. We need you. But if you don't have the personality, you're going to be an ineffective teacher in the classroom.
What about the dress?
I'll touch on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll piggyback on what Mr. Alejo said. I did notice some things right now, even just at that hearing Dr. Nieto talk. I did notice some people walk in late. Oh my God, that'll flip me immediately. If I say class starts at 7:45, it's not 8 o'clock, it's not 7:50, it's not 7:48, it's 7:45. Kids will be in their chairs. You need to be there. You're a professional. You have to remember you are coming into a profession. You have to play the role. Part of it is your dress. Like he said, if you come in strutting with your stilettos in my office, that's a turnoff for me already. That's the wrong setting. That's the wrong dress attire. You're sending the wrong message. I'm looking for a professional. I'm going to let you in on my kids because we're held responsible for the school. The superintendent's not going to call the teacher, hey, you didn't teach your subject. No, we'll be getting that phone call. You have the most valuable commodity the parents have, and it's their kids. It is our job, like she said, as advocates, to advocate for our kids. If we don't, nobody else will. My building, you enter, it's as quiet as it is right now. And I'm at an alternative center because that's what I demand. You teach everybody, you treat all my kids with respect, no yelling. Nobody yells in the building. You come in, you made the cut because we do screenings immediately. We're gonna go from 50 to 10. That application better have something in there that's gonna catch my attention. Certification is the big one. Once you're there, like I said, your posturing, your movements, the way you're answering me when we're going. I mean, it's just not myself. We sit with a committee. We'll bring our tenured teachers or people that we have on campus. We know what we have. We know our culture of our school. We don't want anybody to upset that balance. It's very hard to set a culture and make it work. So I, as far as I'm concerned, I'm pretty sure they are too. They're very protective of that culture.
Absolutely.
Yes, and no nos vengan con los sunglasses en la cabeza and with a cell phone in the hand. And
Yeah.
please remember, you're coming into a professional setting. You're not gonna. And if you do this, I don't mean to offend anybody, but you're gonna be teaching kids. You're not gonna be selling perfume or cologne at Dillard's or Macy's. I mean, that's a wonderful thing, but it's a totally different environment. So it's, spit the gum out before you walk into our office, take the sunglasses off the head, turn off your cell phone. Please, have enough respect for what we do to turn off that cell phone before we walk in. You don't want it to be chiming or whatever, and or answering we don't want to find out later, hey, if we know you, or if somebody knows you, hey, they were posting on Facebook while you were sitting there interviewing, down here under the table, which is, those type of things. And those are just little things that we look at. Be professional. Be professional.
Some of you guys are shaking your head like, no, who would do that?
It happens. We've had it happen.
Oh, yes.
I sat in on a head coach. We were hiring a head coach for Harlingen South a couple of years ago, and a coach walked in like this, sunglasses on his head. This is and he is a very successful coach. That does not negate the fact that you respect the people that are taking the time to give you an interview that is going to put food on your table. Okay?
Which leads us to the next thing, and actually, Mr. Salazar, someone answered that. Can each of you share an interview that was either very, very good or one that was just like, just a fiasco? So if all of you can kind of share that with them to even make it more real to the students. Okay, Sabina.
Well, I know that when you said a fiasco, I guess that's the best word. Part of our questions, we have a series of questions, and we have our SBDM committee sitting there, and we go around the table asking questions. So you kind of pretty much know, like, who's next, right? Make that eye contact with the person talking to you. Who asked you the question? Because I'm the principal, and you know that you're only going to stare at me. Somebody asked a question over there, and the whole time they're like, I'm like, really? We're all part of this committee. And her biggest concern, in the end, we always ask, why should we hire you instead of somebody else, instead of the other 10 applicants that we have or that we're going to interview, or do you have any questions for us? Her biggest concern was like, are these nails okay? She had, when they first put your, don't talk to me about nails, let's check these out, but, well, I know a lot of teachers do that, and that's fine. If that's your thing and you love those to pay your money for the beautiful nails, and they had all the blings on there, and I think that month there must have been a special buy one, get one free, because she had blings on every nail, and she wanted to know if that was okay. And she walked in with the stilettos, and I was like, you are so in the wrong profession. If that's your biggest concern, the nails, and can we wear jeans? Those were the two questions that she had for us, and I was like, really? I said, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Let's get you that job, and then we're going to talk about your nails and your jeans and stuff. But you have to go in there already. And if you don't have any questions, that's fine. It's better to not ask any questions than to ask me about your nails and your jeans. Because I don't do either, so you're not going to get a lot of points with me anyway. As administrators, our superintendent doesn't look too kind of. Yeah, I don't wear jeans, and you may say, well, because you're too fat. No. They may give me my size, but I just, I have to set the tone. If I come in all raggedy jeans and stuff, and some of you guys are saying, where do I have my jeans? But no, there's a time and a place. This is the time and the place. You're gonna walk around from room to room, and that's fine. But I wouldn't expect you to show up to work in jeans because the kids notice everything. So you can't pull one on those kids. They notice everything.
Thank you, that's great, great story.
Okay, well then, I guess since I think she's given you a very good outlook and insight as to, you know, that type, and let me just at least cover a little bit of some of the interviews that I've seen of people that have come in that have really made a very good impression, okay? And generally, people that come in that are very observant, pick up if there's a paper on the floor, you know, say good morning, shake your hand. Those are the types of things that we look for, okay? I did have a young lady that came in, and this one in particular that I'm envisioning, that I remember very clearly, coming in, you know, shaking my secretary's hand, you know, and asking, you know, for me by name. And this was a pre-screening in terms of not even a full interview. But she came prior to the interview as a pre-screening just to come and introduce herself and say hello. She made an appointment. She was there at my convenience at 5:30 in the afternoon, at my convenience. And so those are things that are important for her to have taken that extra step. She came in wearing SaberCat colors, okay? Believe it or not, at the high school level, we have a great pride in our colors, okay? And that's an extra little bit of thing, you know? She came in knowing and understanding our kids, saying, oh yes, you know, I understand y'all, you know, you're, at any given time, we've got all kinds of activities going on. And I remember that she said, yes, I know, you know, your mock trial team is, you know, at state today. And I was like, yes, they are, you know, and things like that where they have actually researched our background and our population. She knew the history of our school, which isn't very long because we just opened it last year. But she knew, y'all opened up last year? Yes, ma'am, we did, yes. Yes, you know, I understand y'all are the smallest school in the Edinburgh school, you know, high schools. I said, yes, we are. I said, but look at your building, Ms. Torres, it's very small. It's smaller than Edinburgh high schools, and a very good observation. So things like that where they have already begun to immerse themselves in the community in which they're asking to be involved. That makes a big difference. That makes a big difference. So those are the types of things that we look for. And as you said, I think, or no, I think Mr. Salazar said, you know, in hiring someone who has the personality and the characteristics that catch your eye because their animation, their dynamic, the way in which they present themselves, people want to hear and listen and get your attention, okay? A very good friend and mentor of mine who is now actually an assistant superintendent for ECISD always told me, he said, Eva, you look for a good person, look for a good human being. He said, those are the characteristics. And those are the things that you can pick up just in the way people make eye contact with you, the way they shake your hand, the good firm handshake, the way they say good morning to others besides, as she said, besides just the principal, the way they treat others around you. Don't think that from the moment you walk into that building, people aren't watching and knowing. Like Ms. Torres, that lady that came in, you know, she was late, she was rushing, she was in a hurry, and, you know, we told her, stop and sign in right here. She kept on going because she was late for your interview. You know, those types of things. Know that the minute you step on our campus, all of those things will come back to us. And so the demonstration of those characteristics, and honestly, that, you know, what can we tell you? If you're going to do that, you're going to do that naturally. And that's what we're looking for. Because if you're contrived in the way that you're acting and presenting yourself, it's going to come through. We want a genuine person who's friendly, who's good, who's happy, who's going to portray those things to our kids. And again, they're our kids. They're our kids. And we're careful about who we're going to put in front of them.
Thank you.
I think, well, I shared with y'all the one that I saw, and as I said, this person was applying for a head football position at a major 5A high school, and this individual is an extremely successful football coach where he is. He has a great record. He really does. But to walk in with cell phone in hand, finishing up a text message with his sunglasses on his head, you know, kind of dismissing the committee as they were sitting there waiting for him. If you're going to be dismissive of me and my time, I'm going to be dismissive of you. Very plainly put. it's just respect the people. Respect the people that you're going to be working with and for. One of my new hires is sitting in here, and the reason this person was hired was because she was polished, she was articulate, and she had very, very, very good people skills. It was very easy for me to hire this individual. Very easy for me and the people that sat with me that day. Those are the things we look for. Be respectful, be mindful. Also, if you think you had a good interview, and I'll tell you this, I'll share a little bit of personal experience. I interviewed before I became an assistant principal in Harlingen. I interviewed 8 times. I started interviewing when I was still in the program, and then shortly thereafter, I got an opportunity because in Harlingen there were positions opened up I entered 8 times within 1 year or so. And every time, by my 3rd interview, I was the first runner-up. Always, first runner, or the first runner-up, and not the person selected. And it was always somebody on campus that got selected. But I was not afraid. I had a very good mentor. Dr. Garcia was the assistant superintendent for human resources. And so what I would do is, if I felt that I had had a good interview, I was comfortable enough to call Dr. Garcia. And she was very kind enough to say, Alejos, you needed this person had this on you, this person had that on you. So if you feel like you've got a good relationship with that principal, don't be afraid to pick up the phone and call and ask, what happened? And if somebody comes and interviews with me and they call me, I'm going to take the time to say, this is what you were lacking, this is what this person had on you, this is, without going into too many details, I'll let you know how you can help yourself maybe the next time around to get an interview. But we're giving you some pretty good pointers today as to things that should get, once you get in the door, should help you to get that job the first time around. All right?
Piggybacking on that, I've done that myself several times about calling back to see where were my gaps or where I needed to polish up. That being said, I just picked up a UTPA student, education student, last semester. She graduated last semester. I did my screening, had probably about 20 applicants, pared it down to about 5 that we brought in the building. Then we went down to our last 2. The person that I ended up with wasn't the sharpest, but she had a lot of good qualities. She was there, she was solid. I knew I could bring her with me as to where we needed her to be. And this is the impression she made on me, and this is why I'm relating this story to you. She came in, we had a great interview, she interviewed well. The other counterpart was all about herself and how great she was. She hadn't even taught a day in the classroom. That's going to turn people off. We've been around the business. There's a lot of good teachers in the classrooms where you all can use as mentors and learn. Teaching, there's nothing that prepares you until you get up there and you start doing it. You can have all the theory in the world, but until you get up there and start teaching, you'll see what teaching is. And this particular young lady, impressed me with her skills as to very genuine, just what we're saying, her responses, her attitude, cordial. She was there. I said, oh, I can mold her easily with her, especially with that attitude of wanting to learn, wanting to do things. Well, a week later, I get a phone call from HR. She's not completely certified for that particular position. Da 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 da. They tell me, oh, we want to yank that contract. I said, no, you're not. Mind you, I had her for a week, and I'm already fighting for her because that's the impression she gave to me. I said, we're not going to let her go. I will take it up with the superintendent. We need to keep her within our district. She'll be a great teacher someday. I did fight for her. I moved her, and I placed her. I was not going to just let her go to any of the schools. Yeah, just like we're colleagues. We have colleagues in the district. Hey, I got a great teacher for you. I know what you're trying to do with your program. I will send her to you. And they had a particular opening for that position. So I talked to him myself. This is principal to principal. Forget about HR right now. And I hatched it out through him. We approached the soup. We already had the solution. And it went. It happened. 1 week that particular, my teacher now, because she was my teacher, and I also advocate for my teachers. I took the time. I could have just said, "Well, HR's mistake, let them fix it." But no, you can ruin people like that too. And that's the other thing we do. We take care of our personnel. And she is teaching now at the high school. So I'm glad for her. Like I said, you don't have to be the brightest one in the bunch. But all those other attributes.
And that truly does make a difference. And as he said, yes, we collaborate, we talk to each other, and we work together. As a matter of fact, when you said that, Ms. Avila here sent me a fantastic young lady that she didn't have an opening at her spot, and so she called me up because we had an opening, and she sent me a great young lady. You know, I know and I can trust that as a fellow principal, she's not going to lead me wrong. She's not going to give me someone who's unmotivated, who's not going to give 100%. Okay? And the young lady that she sent me actually has been with me now for quite a while, and she's the kind that anything you need. And that's the other thing. I know that at all levels, but particularly at the high school level. Right now, as we speak, we've got Saturday tutorials going on, we've got a UIL meet going on, we've got people out with the mariachi group, we've got people out with the cheerleaders. There's all kinds of activities. There's a basketball game, there's all kinds of activities going on. And so people that are willing to and wanting to go above and beyond. I want someone who's going to match my work ethic. And that's pretty tough to do, I'm going to tell you, and I'm not saying it to pat myself on the back. But I need someone who's going to be there whenever we need them for whatever we need. Okay? This young lady, she's paraprofessional, I'll share with you. She's out there every Friday night helping us with our drill team. She's out there during drill team practice. She's out there, if I need her right now, I could pick up the phone and call her and she would be right here. And I'm not saying that I would do that to someone, because, as he said, we take care of our personnel. You know, they're near and dear to us. We take care of them. But we also value that loyalty, that work ethic, and that willingness to help whenever we need someone now. And so when you apply, you know, a UIL, what other things besides the actual classroom situation can you help with in creating, developing, and nurturing that big community that revolves around a high school, okay, and really any other school.
I just want to real quickly add, here in Edinburgh, if I'm looking for a teacher, and I'll go over there and get on our computer, apply track, okay, I want to, who applied for, boom, 300 people. Really? I'm not going to interview 300. I'm not going to even screen 300. I'm not even going to screen 1/3 of those. If you want a job, you have to go after it. It's not enough for you to say, well, my application's on file at HR, and I'm just going to sit here and wait for them to call me. Get a Snickers bar. You're going to be sitting there a long time before somebody calls you. Sometimes I looked at him and I said, Avila like me. I'm going to interview him just because it's Avila. Oh, this one's George. That's my husband's name. Let me interview this guy. Because how else do I could sit there and screen all day, all week long. If you want a job, you go over there, and it doesn't matter that your application's already there and you already turned in a resume. You come resume in hand and you be persistent and say, well, when can I meet the principal? I'll meet at her convenience. I want to meet with her. I want to assure myself of at least an interview. I'm not asking her for a job right now. All I want is get my foot in the door and at least get an interview. There are so many of you out there. You have to stand out. You have to say, what is it going to take for me to get at least an interview? Because let me tell you, just like she said, I may not have an opening for you, but pretty soon when other principals, and that's what we do over lunch, hey, have y'all interviewed anybody lately? You have some good ones? Send them my way. And we do. We just send names and numbers because that's how y'all stand out.
Can I
So,
piggyback on something
go
she
for that
said?
job.
She said something about being available. The biggest thing I want you to know going into teaching is not 8 to 5 at all. If you think you're going to come into a profession, I'll work in the week, have my weekends off, have my holidays, wrong. And that's just being brutally honest, because you will find yourself with stuff at home over the weekend. We get to do our work after everybody leaves because we can't do our work. And that's just part of the course, but it's something that we know going into. But that's the biggest thing I want you to take, is that it's not 8 to 5 by any means.
With respect to finding a job, though, don't be afraid to drive more than 10 or 20 miles for a job. All right? The world, Edinburgh is a great place. When I worked in Harlingen, Harlingen was a great place. But the world does not revolve around McAllen or Edinburgh or Harlingen. There are the Santa Marias of the world. There are the Progresos of the world. There are the La El Cauchosa, La Sara. You know what? My very, very first teaching job was at Santa Maria. And I was working at Luby's as a manager. I quit my job on a Sunday because I was working 80 hours a week. And I opened up the paper and Santa Maria is looking for a social studies teacher. I have a degree in political science. Dale gas. So I drive out there. And I meet with Dr. Cantu, who's now right now he's the interim, or he's the superintendent at San Benito. Gave me my very first teaching job. But anyway, I walked in and I interviewed with him, and I had been a teacher's aide. Like I said, I had been a teacher's aide and a bus driver for several years, for 6 years at South Texas ISD. Well, the principal at Santa Maria, and I didn't know this, the principal at Santa Maria had been a teacher at South Texas, and I had helped him out, you know. So I walked in, I interviewed in the morning. That afternoon I was teaching. The next year I became the head football coach. You know, but they saw, you know, and it was, you know, I lived in Harlingen. I still live in Harlingen, and I drove out there every morning, and I enjoyed the drive. It gave me time to plan in the morning and time to unwind on the way home. I enjoyed that drive. I enjoyed the community. You become a member of the community.
Yes, you do.
I grew up in La Villa, so I know what it's like. I know what it's like to be a part of and they still have water. If they have any teaching positions,
We're going to be picking up donations for Tinaco.
You know, I applied for superintendency just recently, and they asked me, "What do you plan?" Was it Tinaco? But don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to take that drive. I ended up in Harlingen. Eventually, you know, because I lived there and it was convenient for me. I ended up my first administrative job in Harlingen, and my first administrative job was in Raymondville, at Myra Green. You know, I applied. I had been in the classroom 4 years. I had done the bus driver thing 6 years or 10 years. I applied and I walked in. They said, "Well, we're still interviewing today, sir. Come on down." I interviewed at 4. The next day they said, "You got the job." Oh yeah, qué padre. But they gave me my first experience as an administrator. You know, and he was a first-year principal. I was a first-year assistant principal, and in a very politically charged community. So don't be afraid to gain that experience, because, you know, I was at Harlingen and Harlingen is a wonderful school district, that they have a wonderful system of support. They really, really do. But now I went off to Region 1 for a while and came back into the principalship at Santa Rosa, and I've learned more in Santa Rosa than I did in 7 or 8 years in Harlingen, because you have to do everything. In Santa Maria, as I said, I was the only special ed teacher at the high school, so I was the special ed department head. I was the head football coach, basketball assistant, head powerlifting, assisted with track, and assisted with baseball. And I was in charge of off-season.
That's what
And
I
I
mean.
was a
I
junior
do a lot of stuff.
and I was a junior class sponsor, in charge of putting on the prom. You know, so you learn so many things. It's a skill set, and you become a part of that community. I still have kids. I was there for 3 years. I still have kids that, "Hey, Mr. Salazar, how are you doing?" And I still remember their names, and I still remember their families, because, you know, there were 15 kids in that graduating class, 15, 20 kids. There were 60 boys at the high school. I had 35 of them playing football for me.
Half the class.
So, you know, it's those type of things, and it's a skill set that if you want to move on to a bigger school district later on, if you want to move into administration later on, those are things that help to build your resume. So, like I said, these are wonderful school districts to work for. Edinburgh, I know a lot of wonderful people that work there. Harlingen, Brownsville, but if somebody's willing to hire you, you know, 20 minutes away, 30 minutes away, take the chance, take the opportunity. Who knows? You may end up like some of my friends that were at Santa Maria. It's 25 years later and they're still there.
Wow,
So
that's great.
Mhm.
Well, I guess we'll go to questions and answers now. Just
Sure.
maybe someone to have questions before I continue with mine. But is there anyone that has a question that maybe has already interviewed and maybe didn't get selected, but now you just kind of want to bounce off some ideas? And if not, just any other question? Okay, good.
I interviewed once. I got to receive my undergrad last year. I went through the certification program. Right now, I'm classified as highly qualified in history, 12. But I guess the feedback for me was that I wasn't able to get the job because of other people who were more certified to the state. Would that be something that immediately would turn me down in reference to like application, even though like maybe the interview was, in a better position than other individuals, not being specifically?
So, you're only content certified?
Yeah, well, I'm actually, after the window certification, because the number of credits that I have, like in history, for example, the certification program provided me with a highly qualified letter to be, I guess, hired within 1 year, and they gave you within the 1 year to be able to take the exam. Now, would that be something that would hinder me from being hired, or would that be a possible, we're going to give you within that 1 week, we can hire you, but we're going to give you 1 year to.
I see a couple of things there, or just the one main thing is, what do you want to teach, high school or middle school?
At this point, I mean, it wouldn't, I can do both.
Okay. If I were you, I would strive to try to gain that composite, that social studies composite. That makes you marketable, because history,
You need them. You need to be a composite.
There are a lot of history majors, but there are a lot of times that we need somebody to teach the economics, to teach the government, and so that gaining that composite. For example, if you're a biology teacher, if you gain that science composite, that makes you a lot more marketable. So if you're looking at the secondary level, having that composite makes a huge difference.
Because it comes to scheduling, and when we're scheduling, we have composite. I'll take a composite in any area over a single.
We can plug you in anywhere on that master schedule.
And that was one of the things that almost immediately, the composite, and if you're going for the middle school, the generalist. You go to, if you're aiming for a middle school job, look for the generalist. Okay,
Even
4th or 6th
elementary.
generalist, or
Even
that way,
elementary.
in any area, you're able to fit in there. But at the high school, science and social studies, we look for composites. Because like you said, it's coming down to the master schedule.
No.
What I would tell him is decide. You say, I'll do both. Yeah, you're, and I understand you want to work. Make a decision. I want to do high school. I want you, because you have to prep those certifications to get you in. At the same time, that mentality is kind of keeping you out because you're not doing either or.
Or now también, we also need, if you want to stick with the history, then pick up your special ed certification. And you can do that resource classroom, because we have students, and in some campuses, they have, they have resource social studies. And they need that person who is who has special ed certified, but they need to be certified in that content area. So if you want to pick up that special ed certification. And secondary, pick up that ESL, elementary, pick up that bilingual.
And the fact that you're going ACP, I went ACP. My undergrad degree is in criminal justice, so no, that doesn't hold you back.
Yeah.
You just, sometimes you kind of think, well, I'm at a disadvantage. I'm interviewing against somebody that's fully certified and stuff. But your time will come. It didn't have anything to do with your ACP or whatever.
ACP.
Yes, sometimes I was ACP.
You have to believe in yourself, and you have to market yourself and sell yourself. There's times that I've chosen a first-year teacher, fresh out of college, like many of y'all are, over a veteran teacher. Because I can see sometimes, the innovativeness, the creativeness, the willingness to learn and to mold, and the passion in that younger teacher, as opposed to a veteran teacher who comes in and says, well, I already have my curriculum, and I've done this and this and the other, and I already have that all done. I was like, okay, so you're going to pull out a filing folder, of handouts that you passed out for the past 5 years. That's not what we're looking for. I would say, in addition to exactly what they've said and the composite, he's correct. Decide, are you wanting middle school or high school? And having been at both levels, different things that you need for each group, for each section. If you're going middle school, look into the STAR, find out everything about the STAR. What is it that the kids need to do in order to pass the STAR? If you're going high school, the EOC, the end of course exam. Be familiar with your accountability system. We want somebody who already knows what they're getting into when they come in. You're going to be held accountable for the success of those kids. So find out about the accountability system. I noticed on the agenda for today's workshop, there's a section there where they're going over accountability. Be familiar, be able to come in and talk to me about end of course scores. How many test items do they need to pass the end of course exam? You know, what is your plan? Have you looked at the test release online? You know, be able to speak to those things in a fluent and a very familiarized way, okay? Also, social studies, I would say, if you have any experience in mock trial, in UIL social studies, in debate, those types of things will help you also if you put on there that you're willing to do those extracurricular activities, because we look for sponsors. Like he said, you know, who's going to put on the prom? Somebody has to, you know.
But don't,
right.
on that note,
Part of life.
Yeah.
at first year teachers, don't go into too many.
Not too many, but definitely be
Because
available.
start putting your name out there, start putting your face out there, because you still have to learn to teach.
Yeah.
And 1,000 things are gonna be coming to you.
And as far as the ACP is concerned, you paid them a pretty penny.
Yep.
You called them, hey, I still haven't gotten a job. They're you know, they already took your money, dude. Now you need to
Yeah, hold them
hold them accountable for what they said they were gonna do.
for you.
And for you, you know, when I was very fortunate that I got a job, and then at that point, that's when ACP was starting to be big, so I went ACP. I had already started teaching. I went on the emergency, but if you already paid them, and I'm sure you have, then you need to call and say, hey, I'm still looking for a job. That's one. Secondly, if you have friends that are teaching, always, hey, is there anything at your school? Hey, tell your principal about me. Hey, let them know. Hey, let me know. Those are the two. Keep those two avenues open. The ones with your friends who will soon be your colleagues, and call that ACP program up, and just like they demanded their payment, you demand of them what they owe you now, and that's a job.
How many of y'all are going elementary? You are much more valuable to me right now than a 20, 25-year veteran teacher who has her dinosaur unit that she just can't live without.
8 filing cabinets.
You guys are leaving from here with so much knowledge, so much a wealth. You know, when I went through the ACP program, I went through the school one, I never had to take all that technology that you guys have. You guys speak the same language that our 4, 5, and 6-year-olds speak, because I'm sorry, you're going to have to do a whole song and dance for them every day. We have to entertain them, because if you don't, their iPad does, their laptop does at home, and that's the last thing they do right before they get off, and that's the first thing they grab when they get in the car. So yeah, that's what we have to compete with. So don't feel intimidated by the veteran teachers, because at this point, you have so much more to offer. And we see that because we have some dinosaurs sitting in our school waiting to retire, and we're like, are you sure you're not ready to retire yet? You know, but they feel the pressure.
ATRS is coming over tomorrow.
Those are the ones that put all the slips in their box, TRS. We'll be here tomorrow. No. But because they're feeling intimidated by you, let me tell you. Definitely, because you guys are so prepared. So don't sell yourself short. Get out there.
On that she said, don't be intimidated. Don't be intimidated by these teachers. You have your credentials. So far, what it shows is you have the potential to be built. And that's the whole thing of the whole gist of this Q&A or whatever we're talking about is that. It's you. It all comes back to you. What do you want to do? Where you want to get? Nobody's going to do it for you. You have to do it. You have to make yourself available. Enséñame ganas. I'll support you. I'll die with you on the cross. But you have to meet me also. And I don't think any of these folks will shy away from what I'm saying, because at the end of the day, I can't make you do anything. You're just like the students. We can't make them do anything. You build your relationships. You establish some rapport with them. They'll start opening to you. Especially ours. I mean, we're at the AP. Believe me, 40% special ed at risk. Times 5, you know, what do you want me? I'll play cards and I'll beat you every day. But that's what we deal with, and these are children. So you are going to come into a profession that a lot of people think that they can come into and do. Because I hear other professions, right, they fire me, I'll go into teaching. And I'll tell them, I'm a gambling man, I love to gamble. I'll gamble my paycheck that you won't make it, because I know them. I know their personality, and I also know what it takes to be a teacher. It's not for everybody.
One of the things I think that they said that you that made a lot of sense to me was that feel free to go and visit with them. A lot of times, even myself, I'm a parent, and many times I'm very hesitant to go visit with a principal because sometimes a school can be very intimidating for a parent. I mean, I know I'm a professional, but yet I train them, but they're very intimidating. And so if I feel that way sometimes, I know you have to feel that way. But here they're telling you that feel free to make an appointment to visit with them. They have hundreds of applications, and you're only one of hundreds. So you have to make that concerted effort. Grit your teeth and just do it, and just go visit with them. And you may have to visit with several before you're hired, and that's okay. But I thought that was an excellent point that you've made, because many times we are hesitant about entering public schools. You know, they're so secured now. It's almost, you're afraid to go in, many times. And so, great presentation. It's time to end, but I want to thank all four of you. Thank you so much.